biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling?
When's the last time you got laid?
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Ashanti, producer boy Eric Gersanti in the background. Back here once again to review tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, which has left me broken and sad.
And happy at the same time. Today was a very emotionally conflicting Dynamite.
It was, and it started on a very big high note for James, who truly, truly needed it after John Cena retired over the weekend. And we actually do start, though, with Will Ospreay coming down to the ring to respond to MJF's promo from Collision. Fun fact, I actually watched Collision. I heard MJF's promo was really good, and I watched it, and I ended up watching the whole episode. And the sickos are right. Collision is a solid show. But MJF pretty much came out on Saturday and called Daniel Garcia a pawn. He blamed the fans for his sudden but inevitable betrayal, saying that we discarded him after he opened up to us, and he pretty much told us if we did so, he was going to destroy everything we loved, and he is going to attempt to do that. And he then called out a number of names, but specifically Will Ospreay, calling him a talentless hack that we have picked instead of Max. So Will's come out to respond. He goes out and he takes a seat on the top turnbuckle and says that he wasn't surprised by what MJF did last week, saying he had heard rumors that MJF was the most insecure person in pro wrestling. He says that MJF blaming the people for what he did to Garcia is nonsense. What he did, obviously, being hitting that tombstone pile driver from the second rope where Will now sits. And Will has ADHD similar to Max's ADD, but that doesn't give him an excuse to be a little prick. Will says he's only had a few interactions with MJF, but he can already tell that Max doesn't like him. Firstly, probably because of the bidding war of 2024 didn't really go Max's way, as Toni decided to spend his money on guys like Ospreay, who will raise AEW up.
I love that. I love that line.
Not one who's going to bring it down and destroy it. Secondly, Will thinks that Max doesn't like him because Max thinks Will is a talentless hack, even though Will and everybody there can agree that Will has more talent in his left ball than MJF has in totality. But the main reason that Will thinks MJF doesn't like him is because Will reminds people of the main identity and the foundation of what AEW is supposed to be. MJF might have come back with a tattoo saying AEW bet on yourself, but Will thinks it should really read AEW all about myself. Ospreay says that he's been cleaning up messes ever since he's arrived in AEW, and he finally found the guy he needs to clean up after. MJF may call himself a scumbag, and some continue to call him their scumbag. And Will welcomes that because this scumbag version of MJF is MJF at his best, even if it has been the same old shit for the last 5 years. So Will calls MJF out to fight right there and then in Calgary. And while MJF's music does hit, he doesn't come out, and slightly hearkening back to what happened on Saturday when MJF had Will's music hit and Will did not come out, a la Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. However, MJF does appear on the Tron, and Max goes into a diatribe about how he has beaten all of their favorites, referencing the crowd, and whoever the crowd picks as their new favorite, he has knocked them back down, and it looks like he's going to have to do that again. MJF calls Will the wrestler of the moment, while he is the wrestler of the millennium, saying that great wrestlers like Will are a dime a dozen. Will may wrestle for the fans, but eventually they will get tired of him, and they will call the next big thing the best in the world the same way they're doing to Ospreay right now. MJF then asks Ospreay if he wants to wrestle tonight, which Ospreay and the crowd immediately respond positively. However, MJF pulls the old bait and switch and says that he doesn't wrestle for fun. However, he does challenge Will to an international championship match next week on Dynamite, which I believe is the 250th episode of Dynamite. So they're making it a pretty big one. Ospreay then accepts this, calling MJF a bitch for not coming out tonight. And the match a short while later is made official by one Tony Khan. So I don't know why you need eye bleach for watching MJF versus Ospreay, because it's going to be
no. The idea is, why is it happening next week and not at All In? Which is a very fair question to have. That is a huge money match. Now, granted, the 250th episode of AEW Dynamite is a huge deal. That's not something that should just have a regular card to it. That is not something to scoff at. 250 episodes of weekly TV. Bravo to AEW for making that happen. That said, yes, I am still kind of wishing that match was saved for All In, but I'm hoping that means that next week there's going to be some shenanigans and a rematch might happen at All In.
It is possible, although, again, I don't understand why you wouldn't save the money for All In itself as opposed to running it back at All In. Unless they really want to do, and I'm kind of bringing up something that happened later, unless they're going to do Pac against Ospreay at All In, which is something I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, with a Brit versus a Brit at Wembley, which would be cool. But I don't know. This felt like when they were teasing it, and then MJF turned, this felt like it was going to be the Wembley match. And
again, I do need to remind that last year's main event for All In was Adam Cole versus MJF. A match that we had already gotten a couple of times on TV beforehand. So It wouldn't be completely foreign in concept if they have this match and then we get a real rematch at the pay-per-view. So, again, we won't know until we watch next week. But I have a real feeling Ospreay is going to get wrapped in the Don Callis stuff. And I wouldn't be shocked if MJF walks away with the title next week.
That is a very real possibility now that you bring it up. I'm curious to see, because I don't know where Don sits right now, and they might drag that out a little longer, especially considering what happened with Fletcher tonight. So yeah. I think that shoe needs to drop before anything happens between Don and Will. But we'll see. In the meantime, though, James, the promo itself, I thought Will was okay. I don't think he's ever been known as the biggest promo guy. And a lot of the promos he's cut in AEW, I think most of them have either been with somebody, whether it's someone else in the ring or via an interviewer, and he can kind of bounce off Shivani or Renee or whoever it is. This one, he was just out there on his lonesome, and I thought he did fine. Obviously, MJF class as always, and did a great job swirling his wine around and looking like a Bond villain. Good opening segment, not the best obviously we've ever had, but I thought it was a good opening segment, and Will definitely held his own.
Oh no, I completely agree. There is a very different style of promo between these two men. You have MJF, who is a master of the microphone, and then you have Will Ospreay, whose promos sound, in my opinion, very real. It doesn't sound like someone cutting a promo as much as it sounds like a guy who's talking. And I kind of like that, especially for him. There are certain guys who I want to sound like bigger than life superstars. People like The Rock, people like MJF. But then there are guys who I like when it sounds like they're just normal people talking on the microphone. People like Bryan Danielson. People like Will Ospreay. I feel like Will, it makes him a lot more relatable. And that's definitely the character they're pushing with him. Somebody who just loves wrestling and is very, very good at wrestling, but he's not trying to say he's better than anybody, at least not as a person.
Right. He wants to prove it in the ring.
Exactly. So I love the contrast in styles between both men. I thought Will sounded really good. I thought he got some really good lines in. Like, I got more talent in my left nut than you do in your entire body. I thought that was great. And it shows that he's still kind of a snarky prick. Like he's not above talking shit, and I like that. I really like that. I absolutely loved the bidding war of 2024 not really going the way you thought it would. I loved that line because it reflects very real stuff. A lot of big talent got signed.
Yeah.
Someone like MJF, who is very clearly at the top or very near the top of AEW, once upon a time, he would have probably pushed for the biggest contract in AEW. Well, now he's got to compete with all these big, undeniably huge names. So I love that. I love that stuff. I loved MJF. This felt like MJF, right? Yeah. This felt like the MJF we've been missing for a very long time. I didn't hate babyface MJF. I thought there was a lot of good that came with babyface MJF.
It was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. But I think this is the character that we need. But, and this is the most important part of the entire promo as far as I'm concerned. MJF as a heel before he ever turned babyface or whatever, his number one obligation, his number one priority was himself. But in the promo he cut tonight, he still absolutely said, I am trying to make AEW better. This is about making AEW the best it can be.
Right.
And I love that evolution of this character. He's going to be worse than he ever was before. He's going to be an absolute piece of, we're 12 minutes in, absolute piece of shit. But he's got bigger goals now. He knows he put all of his money, he put all of his eggs in this AEW basket. So he needs AEW to be successful. It's not like he's just going to go anywhere. So I love this. I thought this was a great evolution for the character. And it's two guys who both want to make AEW better, but with very, very different mindsets. Absolutely great stuff.
Yeah, because MJF thinks that the only way to make AEW better is to have him do it.
Yes.
Whereas Will not only wants to lift himself up, but lift the wrestlers around him up. He mentioned Garcia earning all of his opportunities, including the one he got last week. And Will, win or lose, wants to see guys like that succeed in AEW because to him, that's what AEW stands for, is guys like himself to an extent, but also Daniel Garcia earning their opportunities and going out there and performing to the best of their abilities. No shortcuts, no backdoors, just straight up who's better, who gets the opportunities, who gets the titles. And MJF is just like, nah, it's my way or the highway. I'm going to make AEW better. And as he said on Saturday, his name is MJF, and we'll thank him later.
I love that.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that switch.
Thank you for recapping Collision because I absolutely was not on top of that.
Yeah, and I know they gave a little bit of a montage of what MJF said on Saturday, but if you haven't seen it, I would recommend going and checking out that promo. It was a good one. The crowd, I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures. The crowd wasn't great, so the noise level wasn't too good, but he elicited a pretty good reaction out of that.
That's good. I need 1 second before we start over the first match. All right, so riff a little bit.
Well, you want me to riff and go down the match? I'm sure you've seen it, so I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, while James takes a quick break, I will now run down the first match of the evening as I get myself centered there. There we go. Which saw Bryan Danielson face off against Hangman Adam Page in the final of the Owen Hart tournament on the men's side of things. Now, going back to Collision, if you didn't see Hangman versus Jay White, they did give a little recap of it as well. Banger of a match. Highly recommend. Collision is for the sickos, and it is amazing. We also had Jeff Jarrett as the special guest enforcer for this match, and we saw an interaction between Jarrett and Danielson first as he came out of the tunnel, and they acknowledged each other with some respect, but then Hangman as well. And Hangman came through the face tunnel once again, despite the fact Jarrett was expecting him to come through the heel tunnel. So Jarrett eventually turned around and saw Hangman. They made eye contact. Hangman stepped up to him and spat right at Jarrett's boots before heading down to the ring. And as you can see by this tweet here from Superior Dream, Hangman coming out of the face tunnel because in his eyes, he has done nothing wrong. He is still the good guy here, as he's just fighting to get after Swerve, who, broke into his home and threatened his child. So
and that was a great promo from Hangman. I think it was on Collision, right?
The one after he beat Jay White?
Yes.
Or before he, yeah, he had a great promo. And as I mentioned while you stepped away, James, a great match against Jay White. It was great. And we saw in that match, too, that I believe it was after Jeff Jarrett stepped in as Hangman continued to beat up White after the bell rang, and Jarrett was the one who stepped in. So him being the enforcer here did add a bit of a wrinkle, considering his past couple of weeks with Hangman, first losing to him, then getting involved in his business post-match, and now being special guest enforcer. We also saw the continued viciousness of Hangman in this match. He bloodied Bryan pretty early on in this match. It was in between the first and second commercial, which shout out to Tony Khan. He gave these guys time.
Yeah, I think we got 2 commercial breaks.
2 commercial breaks, yeah.
And a lot happened in those commercial breaks, too.
Yeah.
A lot happened in those commercials.
A whole lot happened. So Bryan, I believe he got his forehead split open when Hanger sent him into the ring post. Hangman's head split open as well because he reopened the cut he opened on Saturday, which I don't even think he opened intentionally in the first place on Saturday. So whole lot of blood in this match, whole lot of blood in this show. But we'll get to some of that later. I will skip closer to the end of this match here. Bryan hit a fucking springboard. Excalibur was ecstatic. He was like, I don't think I've seen Bryan Danielson hit a springboard in a decade. But in doing so, Bryan, as he hit the springboard to the outside, seemingly injured his elbow in the process. He was able to gather himself and lay in some yes kicks on the floor, but Hangman ducked the final one and then got Bryan up and hit what was a third tombstone on Bryan, this time on the outside. Doc Samson and Jeff Jarrett came over to Bryan to check on him, and when Hangman got rolled out of the ring to try to go after Bryan, Jarrett got in his face, and that led to a stare down before Hangman shoved him aside. Bryan did eventually beat the count to get back into the ring, but Hanger was right there to meet him, beating Bryan down and eventually even ripping off some of the tape on Bryan's shoulder. Hey, Matt. Good to see you, bud. Hangman then eventually tried to hit a discus elbow, but Bryan was able to duck that, get into the corner, and come out hitting the Psycho knee, but due to his injuries, he was unable to capitalize on that. The two then got up and started exchanging blows, and then they actually exchanged German suplexes, where both of them landed on their feet. And then after Bryan landed on his feet from Hangman's suplex, Hangman tried to throw another strike that Bryan ducked, and Bryan again went for the knee. However, Page was able to sidestep this one, and Bryan went straight into the official, just knocking him completely unconscious. And Page followed that up with a clothesline. This move was sweet. It was a little earlier in the match, but yes, Hangman turned a AJ Styles backflip reverse DDT into a tombstone, which I think was the second one of the match. Great move. Anyway, with Bryan now down, Hangman decides to take off his belt like he did with Jay White last week after the match and began to whip Bryan with it before using it to choke Bryan, and this forced Jeff Jarrett to come down into the ring. Hangman shoved Jarrett into the corner, telling him to eat shit. So Jarrett got up, took off his shirt, and revealed a referee's uniform underneath it. Bryan used this distraction to try to get a roll-up pin on Hangman, and Hangman was able to kick out at Jarrett's count of 2. And credit to Jarrett, from here on in, he called this match straight up.
Yeah,
and
he really did.
And they made a point of emphasis of the reason why Jarrett was there, as they've been making this a point of emphasis throughout the tournament. Jarrett was not only a very close friend of Owen Hart, but his former tag team partner. And they said that Jarrett was there to make sure this was done with integrity the way Owen would have wanted it to. So mirroring that integrity, Jarrett called the rest of the match straight up. The two then went back and forth, as I said, with Jarrett calling it down the middle, until Hangman was able to reverse a Bryan submission attempt into a Deadeye, which is really, really cool. Hangman then went outside and hit the buckshot lariat, but instead of pinning Bryan, he went for another one that Bryan was able to counter. However, Hangman was able to quickly recover from that and locked Bryan into a crossface to the point where Jarrett had to check Bryan and raise his hand, but Bryan was able to keep his hand up at a 1 count.
I thought that was the end of the match.
So did I.
Bryan looked knocked out. He sold it so well.
The only thing I was just like, I think, is he out? Like, he looks like he went limp, and then I saw his eye open to see if Jarrett was going to get his hand.
All right. I did that. I noticed the eye too. It looked like, you ever see those deep sea photographs of like giant squids, and it's always like the eye, like yeah, that's what it looks like with Bryan. I thought it was because Jeff had let the submission go for so long without actually calling it that Bryan was looking at him like, call the fucking finish. So just they got me. They absolutely got me there.
They really did. After this check, Bryan eventually is able to wiggle around and maneuver himself and into a position where he shifts Hangman's weight into a pinning predicament and was able to keep Hangman down for the 3. Hangman kicked out like right after the 3 count, too, Hulk Hogan style, and he got up pissed off and shocked and went right after Jarrett, screaming at him. Jarrett was like, no, it was 3. And eventually Hangman just stormed off and went right into the back. After he leaves, Jeff Jarrett goes up to the top to retrieve the title belt for the winner of the Owen Hart tournament. And him and Owen's widow, Martha Hart, walk down to the ring and present the title to one Bryan Danielson, with Martha giving a short speech. The celebration is a little cut short, however, as Swerve Strickland's music hits and he makes his way to the ring, staring down Bryan as he does so. We'll get to the Swerve stuff in a second, but James, hell of a fucking match here. As we said a second ago, they gave them a lot of time to cook, and cook they did.
That video was funny, producer, or that GIF was funny.
But yeah, no, this was a phenomenal match. This was a pay-per-view level match.
Yes.
I think the right person won here, and not just because I want to see Bryan go for the title, but I think the loss helps propel Hangman's storyline further, which I think we got even a little bit more with later. And on the other side, maybe, just maybe, as your lower third says, we can get Bryan Danielson as AEW champion.
Damn it. Couple things. One, this is the 4th match in AEW between Bryan Danielson and Hangman Adam Page. I don't think there has been a bad matchup in the series. And I will go as far as saying I think Hangman may be one of Bryan's best opponents of all time. I'd be like, there are only a few names that I'd put above Hangman in terms of chemistry that I've seen Bryan have in the ring. So bravo to both men. They absolutely delivered. 2, I called Bryan winning. And to everybody who wanted it to be Hangman. Now, I will say, there was no wrong answer here between Bryan and Hangman.
Right.
Hangman makes so much sense from a story point of view. From a story point of view, Hangman versus Swerve 4 is happening. It will happen soon. But I didn't feel it for this matchup. Now, my reason being was I thought it was going to be Hangman getting betrayed by the Elite. That does not seem to be the case, and we're going to, at least not yet. And we'll talk about that soon. But I feel Hangman's story is going to be way more intertwined with the Elite. What up? You know it.
What's going on, man?
Been a bit. Happy to have you here. Well, let's get out of that in a second. We'll go to that. Keep that one saved, producer boy. We'll come back to it. I loved it. I think these guys had a hell of a matchup. Hangman looks destructive. Hangman looks like a force to be reckoned with. For the most part, he had Bryan on the ropes. And the only reason Bryan won is because Bryan is one of the most resilient stars in all of professional wrestling. He was able to survive Hangman. He did not beat Hangman. There is a very big difference, in my opinion, and this was a case of it. So bravo to Hangman's performance. Bravo to Bryan's performance. Who, you son of a bitch. You got to stop pretending you get hurt in these matchups. he went, when he did that tope suicida and he hit the barricade after hitting Hangman. He's like, oh, my neck. And they had the ring doctor come by to check on him. This is 3 matches in a row, Bryan. I'm getting tired of it. I don't even want to think about it. So stop it. Stop it. And all right, we have this tweet. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I definitely like the touch of Hangman coming out of the babyface tunnel. Oh yeah, we got to talk about that too. When Jeff Jarrett was staring at the heel tunnel, almost as if he doesn't see himself as the bad guy in quotes, even though the rest of the world does. Remember, in kayfabe, he really was justified for his actions against Swerve, a man who broke into his house and terrorized his family at one time. Love nuances in wrestling sometimes. I have been saying for months, Hangman never did anything wrong in the feud against Swerve. Right. Since then, since coming back, he's definitely shown a lot more aggression. He's shown a lot more rage, and he has been taking it out on people. But that's what he's been pushed to. He's absolutely right. The crowd embraced this home invader. And Hangman was just supposed to take it. Being a Hangman fan is hard. Absolutely not. Absolutely. The only thing that's hard
You're
about...
say that to a Bryan fan? Okay,
yeah.
But
the only thing that's hard about being a Hangman fan is when he goes away for 4 months at a time because he decides to be a dad. And I love that. I respect that about him as a person. But as a professional wrestling fan, it's hard with all this stop and go.
Granted, I do think it kind of worked for the story, though.
It did. But can you imagine what he could have been devolving into all this time? I don't know.
It unfortunately just happened off screen because we clearly see this much more vicious Hangman. It's almost borderline like what's the name of that Gerard Butler movie where like somebody kills his family and then goes on a murder
the one with
spree?
Jamie Foxx, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that, where like Hangman's been forced into this position where he is completely justified in what he is doing, or at least attempting to do by getting his hands on Swerve. But he is going now. He's starting to go too far in his attempt to get Swerve again. Get his hands on Swerve again. So, with him being so vicious and aggressive against Jarrett, and then using his belt against both White and now Bryan, like he is very clearly willing to go to lengths that he wasn't before, and it's the evolution or de-evolution, depending on how you look at it, of where he has come since there's I Quit match, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I mean, he literally hanged Swerve, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
And drank his blood. So, like, if you thought that was bad, it's now not just aimed at Swerve, it's aimed at anybody who gets in his path.
Yes.
And these people, through no fault of their own, were in his path, and he was willing to do whatever it took to beat them. And he would have, passed Bryan out and probably kept that hold on for as long as he wanted, had Bryan not been able to shift that weight and get the pinfall victory.
So just super compelling stuff with Hangman. Everything Hangman touches in AEW is super compelling. This tweet saying Hangman Page looking a little too good right now. I don't disagree. This character is working for him. It just makes me sad because this was our guy. He's our hero of AEW. So it's sad to see what this has turned into for him. But I unfortunately sympathize with every decision he's made. I sympathize with the position he's been forced in a lot of ways. So just great storytelling. I will 100% back Tony Khan and AEW brass forcing Bryan Danielson to become world champion before he retires. I don't care what Bryan wants anymore. I have been too understanding throughout all this time. I want Bryan Danielson to be AEW world champion. Does it make sense? Maybe not. Maybe not for the trajectory of where AEW is going. Do I give a single iota of a shit? No, I don't. Bryan Danielson should be AEW world champion. And I'll be cool. He doesn't need to be champion for long. He could lose the belt in 2 weeks at All Out. I'd be okay with it. Just say Bryan Danielson got to be AEW World Champion. It is more important for the lineage of the AEW World title that he wins it.
Yeah,
So,
you've mentioned that before. Tony Khan would be a fool to have Bryan Danielson in his company and not win his world title, or any title for that matter.
The fact that the only belt we might ever see Bryan hold in AEW is the Owen belt.
Yeah.
Is not a reality I want to accept.
No, that honestly, I do think it is unacceptable.
So,
I get why Bryan is doing it. Wanting to help put people over and wanting to just stay out of certain storylines to allow other people to shine while he still just gets to wrestle the best. But, bro, you got to take the title at least once. You got to have your turn with it. I'm sorry. He's
also gone on record saying he doesn't want the responsibilities that go with the title. I don't think he wants to do the talk show appearances. I don't think he wants to do the promotional material that comes with being champion. And I get that. It's a lot. It's a huge commitment to be champion. I don't care. Suck it up. This isn't about you. It's about us. It's about what we want.
Let's be realistic, too. They got Mercedes Moné to handle all the press junkets now. They don't fucking need Bryan out there on the Today Show. Send Mercedes. She was in fucking Star Wars. Like, it'll be fine if they don't get, the AEW World Champion. They'll take the TBS champion / New Japan Strong Women's champion, who was on, again, fucking Star Wars.
Yep. Eric in the comments saying he thinks Bryan just likes not being scrutinized and not having the title avoids that. I disagree. Like, maybe about the first part, you're right. Maybe he just doesn't want to deal with all the headache. But he gets scrutinized for not being champion. People are mad at him for being too selfless.
Clearly.
I've seen people turn on him because he doesn't understand what's good for business because he doesn't want to be champion. That is an actual argument I've heard on the internet. He's not going to avoid being scrutinized, championship or not. But excellent matchup. I thought these guys killed it. A great use of blood, I think. A great use of blood. Bryan showing some color and Bryan really selling being essentially outworked by Hangman or out-brutalized by Hangman. And just excellent story. I loved Hangman just immediately making a beeline for the back.
Yeah.
He did not spend a second to think about it. He didn't spend a second to mourn. He left immediately. And I love that. I think that was so good for him. This tweet saying, I'm so used to Bryan Danielson losing every big match that him pinning Hangman tonight legit caught me off guard. See, I will disagree. Bryan wins these big matches that set up for the bigger matches. He's won tournaments before for world title shots. His first world title shot that he got was against Hangman, and he won that tournament beating Miro in the finals. He's won tournaments before. He just doesn't win the goddamn title. So, no, him winning tonight wasn't shocking to me. I'll be shocked if he wins the world title at all. That will be shocking to me.
Yeah, same. And, to go back to your point about him getting outworked by Hangman, it wasn't even just that. He got out-brutalized. I think actually that was the word he used, which is something shocking because do you know how brutal you have to be to out-brutalize somebody who trains with John fucking Moxley? I'm not sure if commentary mentioned that or not, but think about it. The BCC, they are known as the most brutal faction, I guess, in AEW, or at least arguably the most brutal. And for Hangman to come in and just completely break a guy down from the BCC like that is really, really saying something. So really? I thought this match was a really good story. Like I said, right person wins here, I think, because you continue Bryan's one last run storyline and you send Hanger further into madness and some desperation too, as we saw later.
Go back to that tweet, producer boy. So this tweet can be read two ways. This tweet says Danielson got around 4 months left in the game. Hangman probably got another decade. There are two ways of looking at this tweet. One, why spend your time on somebody who's only got 4 months left? Why put that level of investment in somebody who's only got 4 months left when you should be investing your efforts into somebody who's the future of your company? On the flip side, this guy's only got 4 months left. We really got to focus on him versus Hangman's got 10 years left. He'll be fine. I'm not worried about him. He'll be able to bounce back. So there are lots of ways of looking at that mentality. So just something to think about. It's saying maybe he's just going after Susan Lucci losing streak. Damn. Do you understand that?
Nope.
All right. So Susan Lucci is one of the most famous daytime soap opera actresses. And she was on I think it was All My Children for decades, and she just like always lost.
Where's Chad when you need him?
Wait, what happened?
I said, "Where's Chad when you need him?" He probably
I'm doing it. I'm here. I knew the reference.
I know, but that's really Chad's.
I grew up watching those daytime soaps with my mom. There you go. See, yep. Boom, baby. All My Children. Icon. Cool. And she lost all the time when it came to getting nominated.
Oh, I just watched Pokemon.
All right. I used to sometimes I would go home for lunch. And when I would go home for lunch and I'd be watching the TV, there's nothing on at like 12 o'clock.
Sports Center reruns.
Not when you're 7.
Sports Center reruns.
Okay. Chris Leclerc, Susan Lucci finally wins. It was 20 years ago. Finally won the daytime. See, I know my shit.
It's for the Emmys. Okay.
Yeah. Chris Leclerc saying Mariah needs to walk out AEW All In as AEW Women's Champion. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll get there, but
I don't know.
An argument can be made.
Yeah. A good argument, too, but I don't know. All right. Anything else we want to say about Bryan and Hangman? I just feel like I'm praising the hell out of it. I adored the match.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could keep, keeping praise on them, but let us move on. Otherwise, we will be here the rest of the night, knowing you. As we came back from commercial to Swerve Strickland in the ring by himself, well, with Prince Nana on himself, but Bryan and Jeff Jarrett and Martha Hart had left the ring and left it to Swerve. I'm assuming something happened in commercial. Anyway, Swerve starts off by saying 2 weeks ago he stood across from Will Ospreay and said that the man who holds the AEW World Championship is the best in the world, which he still is. Swerve then congratulates Bryan on his win, saying he's looking forward to facing him at Wembley, as he still holds a grudge that Bryan holds a pinfall victory over him. Switching gears, Swerve then announces that he will indeed be participating in Blood and Guts after the Elite in the Dynasty era, which is the first I'm hearing of that.
It's been tossed around on social media for the last couple of weeks that I've noticed, maybe the last month or so, that this is the Dynasty era. I don't know how I really feel about it.
Is that from the name of the pay-per-view?
I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but it's tonight was not the first time I've heard it. It is the first time I've heard it on TV, though.
Weirdly enough, though, first time I've heard it in general. I haven't seen it on Reddit. I'm not on Twitter or wrestling Twitter that much. So outside of when I check our account,
you're missing out.
But I thought it was interesting. But as Swerve says that there are 3 men appointed to lead this era: himself, because he has the AEW World Championship; Will Ospreay, the AEW International Champion; and Kazuchika Okada, who is the AEW Continental Champion. He then calls Okada out and challenges him to a match next week, saying he'll truly show Okada how to make it rain, bitch. Swerve then finishes things off by saying he's going to do 2 things Bryan was unable to do: beat Will Ospreay and lead Team AEW to a victory in Blood and Guts before he goes to Wembley and begins Bryan's final countdown. The Okada match, James, was made official for next week. So another huge headliner match for AEW Dynamite 250. But this was a promo that everything that Swerve said, I liked. It just felt kind of disjointed because he was all over the place. He would like just stated one thing and then just stated another. And almost like he just did a bunch of bullet points without any real flow or rhythm or bridge to any of his next points. And he started doing a little bit at the end there. So while I'm excited with everything Swerve said and everything that he has set up, not his best promo in my opinion.
I'm inclined to agree. I don't think he was necessarily like an egregious promo, like I've seen and heard worse. But I agree. It wasn't his strongest. I think there's a point that needs to be made that Toni tends to now book his AEW champions as having a lot going on. That almost, I want to say the last several AEW champions, whether it's Swerve or Joe or MJF,
especially MJF,
have all been balancing like multiple challenges and multiple stories at once. MJF had the Devil, had Samoa Joe, had Kenny Omega, had so many challengers and had so many stories going on at once. Samoa Joe, literally, like it got to the point that he had to have a triple threat because of just how much was going on at once. And now Swerve, we're starting to see that. Team AEW versus Team Elite or Will Ospreay or now Bryan Danielson. It's a lot. And I don't necessarily mind it because I like this notion that the world champion has a target on his back and is going to be involved in a lot of people's business because they all either want to be champion or because he's representing AEW.
And they want to control the champion in the case of the Bucks.
But sometimes it can lead to certain stories not always necessarily feeling equally treated. So I don't necessarily think that's a problem with Swerve yet, but I can see how, like, again, in this promo, it didn't necessarily feel like he had that much of a focus.
Right.
So let's see. I do think it's a couple of things. One, I love that a team has the AEW World Champion and the Ring of Honor World Champion, and they still somehow feel like the underdog team. I think that's nuts. I think that speaks to how well booked the Elite have been.
Yeah. Although we do have to see who else joins them. There's only 2 members of Team AEW, as opposed to the now 5 that we have on the Elite.
And beyond that, I think it's telling that Swerve is now starting to do what MJF did, which was definitely intentionally spread himself too thin. That he didn't need to put himself in blood and guts. Not with All In
a month
later.
Yep.
You're putting yourself in a very bad position as champion. It's honorable, it's commendable, but it could prove to be a fatal mistake for the champion. So very interesting stuff coming out of this. Tweet says Bully Ray Jones is mad that Swerve checked his ass. Now he's trying to tarnish his championship run. People forget Bully Ray's TNA championship run. This neckbeard was trying to marry Hulk Hogan's daughter. His TNA championship run is why TNA is where they are at now. I won't go that far. Bully was a very compelling character in TNA, but no. I don't know. We're not going to go there. A lot we could dig in there, but it's not the gym pack zone.
Let's also be realistic here. Bully is a grifter, and he's just trying to get his clicks, and
he's quite literally on the WWE payroll.
Yeah,
quite literally on the WWE payroll. So
so of course he's trying to diminish things, and he takes everything really personally. Like if he sees this, he's going to come after me. And we have a podcast of 900 subscribers, and he's on Sirius XM Radio.
902.
But I think he's tripping there because I mean, fucking Swerve was on 3rd after the guy who won the right to challenge him at the biggest pay-per-view of the year. So pretty sure he was properly featured tonight, even if he didn't do the greatest of jobs.
Yeah. Going to Eric's comment really quickly. He's all for balance, but it becomes a thing where you've got so many on the line that we know you ain't losing anytime soon. Or alternatively, as we've seen, whether you're Eddie Kingston or Kenny Omega, sometimes that just means you're going to lose it all at once. So something to think about there. What was that tweet you pulled up, producer boy? Will Ospreay, also a champion in AEW, literally lobbied to lose to Swerve with the specific aim of showing people that it's okay to lose to the world champion. What are we doing here? And that was in regards to how the fuck is Swerve Strickland versus Kazuchika Okada going to work? Neither guy should lose. So,
you know what's going to work? It's going to be absolutely awesome. That's how it's going to work. Shut your fucking mouth.
I will say, I am actually nervous about this match happening. This is not a knock on Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is one of the most talented wrestlers in the world. He's not Kazuchika Okada.
True.
So I am very intrigued with this. I think this is going to be a match that ends in shenanigans.
Wouldn't surprise me, especially with the Elite being involved. I'm sure Perry or the Bucks will probably get involved at some point because, you know, if Okada does beat Swerve and it's not clean, that protects Swerve, I think, more than enough. Also, you know, it's saying you clickbait YouTubers, damn you, or darn you. Yeah, no, damn you. That was right.
I what did we do that was clickbaity? Didn't we?
No, it was. Yeah, well, I'm trying to clickbait Bully Ray while you talk shit about it. Talk shit about my podcast, Bully, so you can drive subscribers to me. Do it, I dare you.
Make us famous. Make us famous, please.
Yeah, I look. I can understand maybe being a little trepidatious about Swerve keeping up with Okada, but I don't care. I think this match can be awesome either way.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. I think
although I am a little nervous about how it's going to finish, but I'm sure Tony's got it down.
I'll also say that this easily is another, like, we are getting a stacked Dynamite next week. That Swerve versus Okada could easily headline a pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's why, I mean, Tony Khan putting both this match and Ospreay versus MJF for the international title on a Dynamite is insane. As we've been saying on the pod, for free? Like, what are you doing, Tony? But hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they'll do like, you know, 700,000 viewers and everyone's be like, see, these people don't draw. All right, let us move along here. We came back from commercial with the diss track towards the Bucks from the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass called 2 times. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again to really get all the lyrics and hear all the jokes. But I thought Caster got some good shots in James.
Yeah. I didn't think this was one of their better pre-tapes. Like, I don't think anything will ever beat the Sting and Darby one. I don't think anything will ever beat that. But
2 grown men going through a goth phase all the time.
It didn't feel like it had the same level of energy behind it. But I still appreciated it. I still thought it was good, and I like this Acclaimed. I like silly Acclaimed.
Yeah, this is when they are at their best.
Now, this speed is nonsense.
Now that being said, I mean, Caster got out-rapped by Mansoor today, so
friend of the pod, Mansoor.
Yeah, Mansoor, a whole bunch of different.
Put my fries in the bag, bro.
Oh, here it is. That's how he ended his rap. Yeah, but Mansoor now beefing with the Acclaimed and Botchamania. So good luck, buddy. After that, we went to our next match, which saw Samoa Joe face off against Chris Jericho in a Stampede street fight. In tonight's game of what's in the black bag that Chris Jericho has, we had a bunch of horseshoes because they were at the Stampede. So get it? Anyway, this match was actually not that violent, to be honest with you. Outside of the horseshoes, there weren't really a lot of weapons. Jericho had Joe in the walls like almost the entire commercial break, picture in picture. And quite frankly, it didn't really pick up until the end of the match as Joe and Jericho finally left the ring, let alone the ring area, and fought their way into the back. Joe was chasing down Jericho and had the advantage until Jericho threw hot coffee into Joe's face.
Love the callback. Love the callback.
It was, yeah.
You know,
I just like Not off the top of my head.
Chris Jericho is one of his most infamous early feuds in WWE was against Kane, in which he accidentally spilled hot coffee on Kane, and that led to a match later that night.
That's right.
A nice little callback to the history of Jericho.
This allowed Jericho to set up for the Judas effect. However, Joe was able to get past those burns and, see that McDonald's lady had nothing to sue about. And Joe ducked the Judas effect, countering into a coquina clutch. There was a nice nope spot there from Joe. However, as Joe has the coquina clutch in, Big Bill appears behind him from a doorway carrying a chair, and he blindsides Joe with it, eventually leading to the 3-on-1 beatdown by Jericho, Bill, and Bounty Hunter Bryan Keith. I'm not calling him the bad apple. I'm sorry. Bounty Hunter is just way cool.
I support you.
The trio then eventually put Joe on a pallet, which was on a forklift, and Jericho drove that forklift through a wall into an area of the arena that was under construction. Joe went flying into all this construction equipment, and when the dust settled, we had a very confused Colt Cabana and the referee and Doc Samson, who eventually called the match due to medical stoppage, making Chris Jericho the winner.
Can I? All right, now finish up, and then I was
just saying, after a commercial, we came back. We saw Joe on a stretcher being put into an ambulance, and then that ambulance drove away, and the camera panned to reveal Jericho, Keith, and Bill standing there with Jericho waving goodbye menacingly and saying goodbye menacingly to Samoa Joe. So I'm sorry, James, what were you going to say?
A little bit of wrestling trivia out there for you guys. This is the third instance in which a forklift was used against the Samoan on live TV, and only the second time in which it was successful in getting a victory against said Samoan. The first being against The Rock at Halftime Heat years ago, in which Mankind pinned The Rock with the forklift by lowering it on him, winning the WWE Championship. And the second time, unsuccessfully, as Brock Lesnar used a forklift to raise the ring against Roman Reigns. Roman was able to successfully retain because multiple Samoans were involved and the numbers were not on Brock's side.
If there are more Samoans than forklifts, you will not win.
Exactly. So,
and now we have multiple data points for this, too. We have 3 data points now.
Now, this being the third instance in which Jericho plus forklift equals victory over singular Samoa Joe.
Yes. Now, we need to see if there are the same number of forklifts and Samoans to see who comes out on top to have a true group for testing here. But for now, I think we have enough data points to conclusively say if you have a single forklift and a single Samoan, you will win a match.
We're bringing up the real science and math and magic of professional wrestling.
Yeah, science, bitch. But James, as for the match, the end was a bit shocking, I think, and it was pretty much meant for shock value. And we are getting this vicious turn I was predicting for the last couple of weeks from Jericho, as this facade and bravado of the happy-go-lucky learning tree has come down. But other than the end, this was just a really, I don't even want to call it a standard street fight. This is just a standard-ass match. And nothing particularly happened in it until the end outside of the horseshoes, which didn't really do that much.
I watched the whole match. I paid attention to the whole match, but I can't say I really cared about the whole match. What's up, Navarro? Welcome to the chat. We will talk about that turn later and the heartbreak that accompanied it. But I agree. I thought tonight was a pretty good, if not pretty great episode of Dynamite. And I will get to your next comment when we get to the matchup. But
right after this one, so
but yeah, the match itself this match was whatever. It was there. It's definitely to hold things over until we get to their actual match, which will be coming, which potentially could be at All In. Joe definitely deserves a win at All In after being the MVP last year.
Yep.
Sense. So I'm saying it. I think Samoa Joe wins the FTW title. I think that's just where this story goes. So I'm all for it. I know a lot of people are upset Jericho won, but it's not like he beat him. The match was called because of a fucking forklift. So yeah, no, let's.
What a great sentence.
Samoa Joe will get his revenge, and I'll be all for it. And in the meantime, maybe this will allow Hook. Not that they've been overshadowed by Joe, but maybe this will allow Hook and Shibata to shine a little bit on their own without Joe, and we'll see what they can do in tag team action.
Yeah, and I think Producer Boy put the tweet up. I'm just trying to double check here myself, but it looks like Joe may have lost because he is going to film season 2 of what you call it for Prime. I just completely
Twisted
forgot.
Metal.
Yes, Twisted Metal. So if that's possible, I know. Hopefully, it's not too long because that would mean Hook is going to be out for a while, and then I don't know what Shibata is going to be doing if he's
the tweet said that they should be filming Twisted Metal until October, but there is expected to be gaps in the shooting. So who knows? Maybe we will be able to get him. I'd be shocked if we don't get him for All In. But just to criticize Twisted Metal for a second, Samoa Joe was a great casting. Why the hell did you get Will Arnett to voice the character?
Yeah, it wasn't necessary. Joe did
I
great
like
as
Will
King
Arnett.
Shark.
Yeah. I like Will Arnett a lot. He's got a great booming voice. Joe would have been perfect. It was silly. You're spending more money than you need to there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely silly.
I thought it was foolish. Also, while I was looking for confirmation that that's where Joe was going, I ran across Mina Shirakawa's tweet about the end of the show. She's just no, and then I can't sort out my feelings, followed by a bunch of dots. So
that's hilarious.
She is as shook as we are.
I just gonna say it. No, I'll save it for later. I don't want to talk about it until we get there.
Man,
I'm sad. I'm actually sad.
You know, at Twisted Metal, I didn't realize Joe was a musician, but I'm Tess. All right. Yeah, I agree with you. This match is whatever. If that's how they're going to write Joe out, cool. But maybe you could have got a better match out of it. I mean, unless they were just trying to protect Joe because he is going to film.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do anything too crazy. But
that's all. That also makes sense. For insurance reasons, for liability reasons. I get that.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. Hopefully, though, that these guys are off TV for too long, because I am really enjoying the trio of Joe, Hook, and Shibata. And with seemingly now 2 of them out of commission, Hook having gotten a fireball in his face, because, you know, Chris Jericho's a wizard. And Joe being driven on a forklift through a wall, it does seem like Shibata is now on his own, and it's just going to be him getting the shit kicked out of him if he keeps showing up every week. So.
Yep. Just also important to note, the most exciting thing to come out of this was a Colt Cabana appearance backstage.
Yeah, just a wild Colt Cabana appeared. Very confused.
Love it. Miss that man.
So do I. All right, let's move along here as we came to our next match, which was Claudio Castagnoli versus Pact versus Kyle Fletcher versus Tomohiro Ishii. Really happy he was there to determine who gets a shot at the AEW International Championship. Producer Boy, do you mind putting that back up so I can read it out loud here? So Trevor Dame on Twitter saying, I have spent Bryan's entire career seeing him denied the top spot, tragically losing it when he got it, and then seemingly being allergic to it in his later years. I cackle as I see people mad he's getting his moment. Make him win the belt at All In at gunpoint, Tony. Sting him. You might have to.
Let it happen.
There's a sniper at the top of Wembley, and if Bryan doesn't win the title, he's bing. All right. As I was saying, we had this 4-way match to determine the number 1 contender for the AEW International Championship, not the number exclamation point contender. I held the shift T too long. They didn't announce when this is when that title match would come, although the winner made it seem like it might be at Wembley. But let's get into the match itself. as we get towards the end here. I might screw a little things up. Very chaotic four-way match. But after the giant swing, Claudio put Fletcher into the sharpshooter. And then he was joined by Pac, who also applied the brutalizer onto Fletcher, which led me to believe we were getting another double tap. But luckily, Ishii was able to come in. He headbutted Claudio off of Fletcher. And then eventually, I think he just drop kicked Pac or something and forced him off of Fletcher as well. Ishii then hit a lariat onto Fletcher, but Fletcher was somehow able to kick out after getting all of that damage. Claudio then hit a neutralizer on Ishii and went after Fletcher, but both he and Pac pulled each other off of Fletcher as they attempted to make pins one after the other. So they got really heated at each other, especially after their match in the Owen a couple of weeks ago. They're not the best of friends at the moment. So they started pushing each other back and forth until Ishii gets involved, and eventually he takes Claudio down. Fletcher uses this distraction to get an inside cradle to pin Pac, but Pac was able to kick out. And then I didn't see how, but he got Fletcher back down. He probably just kicked his head in. Pac then went to the top rope and was able to hit a black arrow before immediately transitioning back into the brutalizer on Fletcher, who was forced to tap out. After the match, that carny piece of shit Don Callis, who was on commentary, quickly and angrily stormed off, as noted by Tony Schiavone. And then we had Pac get on the mic saying that he's made a lot of promises lately, but things really haven't been going too well for him. He says that he's going to draw a line in the sand, saying while he doesn't necessarily know what's next, he is not missing his Wembley moment this year. So, James, the match itself was good. A lot of talent in the ring here for this four-way. Bit chaotic, obviously, as what happens with these matches, but they kept a very fast pace, even if they weren't given a whole lot of time. But I think that's why they had such a quick pace, because they wanted to get as much in as possible. I think the right person won here, and I think, some people were thinking, oh, they're going to let Fletcher win, and then we're going to Fletcher versus Ospreay it all in. And I'm here for Ospreay versus Pac it all in. Like I said earlier, Britt versus Britt at Wembley for a title sounds pretty cool to me. But I think the more important thing, maybe not the more important thing, but to me, the more interesting thing coming out of this is Don's frustration with Fletcher. Because as we saw last week, Don let Will out of his contract with the family. But Fletcher was not let out of his contract. And I think Fletcher's failures, or at least perceived failures, because he did wrestle a great match. He was the punching bag in this entire match and was able to do a really good job of continuing to kick out until he finally got caught in the brutalizer. But his continued failures or perceived failures will lead to Don eventually having the rest of the family probably kick the shit out of Fletcher, leading to Ospreay coming back and getting into a feud with the family once again. Or not once again, but just getting into feud with the family.
Yeah, getting involved with the family.
Yeah, getting involved with the family once again. Thank you.
Eric in the comments. Well, we got a couple here. Navarro saying he liked Pac's post-match promo, felt it was real strong.
It was very good.
Yeah, short, sweet, to the point, and very, very not emotional, but you could feel the emotion come through Pac in what he wants. Chris Leclerc saying that he loved the match. I agree, Chris.
Yep. Anytime I see Ishii, I'm a very happy camper.
Oh, yeah. And then Eric saying he's so glad that they didn't do a turn on Ospreay. If that story goes to Fletcher, then that's fine. I mean, yes, but there is no way that Ospreay doesn't go against Callis.
Oh, that's 100% gone.
Yeah, there is just no way. It would be a waste of time and investment if he doesn't.
Yeah, no, it's going to be United Empire against the Don Callis family at some point.
Yeah, no matter what the promotion does.
Yeah, because it's Davis who's Fletcher's tag team partner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully he comes back. Fletcher tweeting out, "I'm sorry I let you down, Fletch lights," with a bunch of sad face emojis. Is that what we're calling ourselves? Us fans of Kyle Fletcher?
Fletch lights. I love
All
it.
right, we are Fletch lights. Okay. I meant Fletch because I hate you autocorrect, and then autocorrect is spelled with an S, and then couldn't autocorrect though. For fuck's sake. Man, he is tweeting through it right now.
I love Fletcher. He's great in the ring. He's got a great personality. He's got a good look, in my opinion. Yep. It's just a matter of time before he catches on.
Yeah, I really think so too. I thought I say this almost every time we talk about him. When he won the Ring of Honor World Television Championship in that whatever that crazy ass match was, he really caught my eye. I always thought he was really good with Davis in Aussie Open, but he's really gotten to shine, I think, since Davis gotten hurt as a singles competitor, and I think it's helped raise his star quite a bit. And now he is being given the story, as Eric said, where the family will turn on him, and he will be the catalyst to get Will back to feuding with Don, or back to Don, and then eventually feuding with him. But he is being put in a very important position, and I think he will greatly benefit from that feud moving forward.
It'll be like we were talking about Swerve balancing a lot of stuff as champion, but quite frankly, Will has a lot on his plate right now.
Very true.
There is a lot of mystery surrounding where Will Ospreay is going to go for All In. He could easily go into All In as champion. He could easily be challenging for a championship in some capacity, or he could be just involved in a grudge match. There is a lot going on. So just really good time to be a Will Ospreay fan, even though it's probably going to hurt for a little bit.
Yeah. And, I was just thinking of something interesting. You mentioned earlier that there is a very good possibility that Will loses next week and loses his title, which makes things very interesting for Pac, because you would think a solid money match, as I mentioned before, Ospreay versus Pac at Wembley. But if MJF has that title, it didn't specify this was for a title shot at Wembley. They just specified it was for a title shot to be used at any point, similar to the Acclaim. So I am very, very curious to see what happens now between MJF, Ospreay, and Pac, and what direction they go to as we go into All In. Because now I really don't know. It's up in the air.
And the reality is, too, if MJF doesn't win next week, I have no idea what he does at Wembley. He can't go for the world title. We're blowing this match ahead of time. Again, theoretically, they could do a rematch. They could. But Garcia,
yeah, that was what I was thinking.
I feel bad because I like Danny Garcia. I do. I don't want to see that at an all-in event, though. I don't think it's worth the time. I don't know. I feel bad. I feel like
not yet. I don't think you're disparaging Garcia. He's just not on that level. Like, I'm sorry to say, but All In is, you call it their AEW's WrestleMania, but like it's a little bit different because you just got to get your best guys, your best matchups on that card. And as much as I like Garcia and I've liked the progress he's made and where he is right now, I don't know if MJF Garcia is that matchup, even if this is a clear blood feud that needs to blow off in a pretty big match.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't know if that's the time or the place.
Yeah.
Maybe All Out, but I don't think All In.
Yes, All Out feels a lot more suitable for that matchup. And again, please, Danny Garcia, if you ever see this, I'm rooting for you. I like you a lot.
We're big fans.
It just doesn't feel like the right matchup for all of them. That's all. This tweet, Swerve broke into my house, threatened my baby, and the fans chose him. I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to take everything from him. Bryan Danielson. Check out this roll-up, LMAO. Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know. I think, and we were arguing with Producer Boy about this earlier, I think he's underestimating just how beloved Bryan is, and people knowing that this is the last match for Bryan. Him going out on a major matchup against Swerve feels like the right move.
Yeah, it's clearly his last title shot. So, Navarro saying MJF versus Garcia is Cody versus Solo. Basically, no one wants it. Again, not that we don't want MJF versus Garcia. We just don't want it at all in. Cody versus Solo, I think a lot more people want it than people realize. Like, Solo gets reactions.
No.
People are booing the shit out of him. So, I don't know. But the problem is people want Solo versus Roman more than they want Cody versus Solo.
I don't even know what people want with Solo. Like I'm saying this as someone who's been tuning in with SmackDown. I feel like people just don't really care about Solo right now. I think they're invested in the bloodline. I don't think they're invested in Solo. And that's a shame because I think he is a good talent. I just don't think he's been utilized properly.
As you said, they're going to have to hide Jacob Fatu because people are going to like him more a lot quicker.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time.
If you want to see where James said that live, go back and watch our Monday Night Main. Anyway, as we just brought up Hangman, Jacob Fatu, that's who Navarro is invested in.
Yeah.
Anyway, as we mentioned Hangman, we actually went backstage to what was supposed to be Renee Paquette giving us an update on Bryan Danielson, but Hangman angrily walked through her shot, so Renee chased him down screaming his name until Hangman eventually stopped in front of the door and turned around to meet her. Renee asked him, rather forcefully, to show her a little respect as she tries to do her job, and instead, Hangman just angrily stares at her and knocks on the door. Renee decides that this is the time for her to leave because that's probably a good sign. And the door is answered by Kazuchika Okada, who asks Hangman if he can help him. Hangman tries to get past Okada to go into the room, but Okada blocks him, again asking Hangman if he can help him, and the two stare each other down. The Bucks then, however, come through the door and kind of calm everyone down. And they're like, "What's up, Hangman?" And Hangman just stares at them, angrily says, "I'll do it," and leaves. And the Bucks are like, "Great." And it's like, "Are you good?" "Yeah, we're good." And like, this is a good thing, even though Okada seems a little trepidatious. Commentary was initially a little confused as to what Hangman was referring to, but it was indeed later confirmed that Hangman meant he will be their fifth member in Blood and Guts. So, James, this is the back half of the great storytelling of Hangman losing that match earlier. He has now lost his opportunity to get after Swerve, at least in a one-on-one setting, by winning the Owen Hart tournament, and now has to resort to going back to the Young Bucks, who he assaulted, essentially, a couple of weeks ago, or at least he put his hands on Matt, and because he wanted no part of them, and now he is forced to return to them in order to join Blood and Guts and get after Swerve there, after Swerve announced he'd be joining Team AEW earlier in the night.
I'm imagining where this goes, and I'm imagining where I want this to go. First off, I've been calling Hangman versus Okada being a money match that's going to happen. And I think tonight really teased that, and I'm very grateful that it's going to happen. I could see it happening at Wembley. I could 100% see Okada versus Hangman happening at Wembley. I could see maybe Hangman being the guy who gets pinned in Blood and Guts. That Team Elite beats Team AEW beats Team Elite, and Hangman's the one who gets pinned. And that's finally where the Elite are just like, why are we dealing with this guy?
Yeah, especially if he gets pinned because he gets overzealous going after after Swerve. Also, can you even get pinned in Blood and Guts, or do you just have to quit?
No, you can get pinned.
Okay.
I think
because War Games you can get pinned. I think in Blood and Guts you either have to submit or verbally quit.
Well, how did they beat Jericho?
Which
remember
time?
What?
Which time?
All right, fair point actually. So he tapped out against Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, on the roof.
He tapped out against Claudio.
Yeah, on the roof of the
and then
because Eddie threw Sammy Guevara through the announce desk, or whatever it was. The middle.
Then there was the instance against MJF that MJF, what's his name, Matt Maynard, quit to protect Jericho, right?
Yeah, and then MJF still threw him through the what you call it? There was like that metal grate
the stage
behind the stage, yeah, metal and finger quotes.
That's a great tweet there. Oh shit, I didn't even think about how Hangman treated Renee in that segment might possibly lead to Mox joining Team AEW to get revenge. Well, that's effing great. Do that, please.
I mean, that could be part of it. It also can be just Moxley everyone always says Mox and Hangman are the heart and soul of AEW. Which one is which?
And
take your pick. But
we unfortunately missed out on that matchup when we were told, like it was heavily reported that Moxley versus Hangman was going to be a feud for Hangman's title, but due to Moxley's needing to leave to go to rehab, that got scrapped.
Right.
So we might be finally getting that now.
Yeah, which would be great. And come on, I don't know if Mox has been in a Blood and Guts, but no, I think he has.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he definitely has. Yeah, with Eddie and the rest of the BCC. But he clearly thrives in a match like that, and that's a dude you want on your team in a Blood and Guts match.
How did the Elite beat the BCC in Blood and Guts?
Something with a Bushi, I think.
That was a pin because nobody was tapping out in that match.
But there's no refs in the ring. I'm pretty sure you can't get pinned in Blood and Guts. I think in War Games you can get pinned. Producer boy, can you check this for us, please?
In the meantime, we got comments saying Hangman could beat Okada and then defend against Mox at All Out. I think that's possible. I think that's very possible.
For the Continental Championship? That would be interesting.
Yeah. Eric saying, or they can make a triple threat with those three for Okada's title. I would just spread it out.
Yeah, because also, too, as of now, Mox hasn't really interacted with Okada.
Yeah, so I wouldn't blow that in a triple threat.
He has no reason to beef with him at the moment. Obviously, they can make one up, but they haven't given us a reason to do it yet. But yeah, there are a few different ways they can go about it if they want to both have Hangman feud with Okada and Moxley down the line.
Yeah.
But short segment set a whole lot up. Very exciting. How do you win Blood and Guts? The match can only be won by submission or surrender.
And how the hell did the Elite win?
Carefully. I'm sure if you go on the wiki article there, Producer Boy, it'll probably tell us how the Elite won. But while Producer Boy checks that out for us, I'm going to quickly move along here as we went to a Mercedes Moné promo in the ring. She was once again celebrating her titles win. I guess that's the way to put it, because she won 2 and she gets twice. The Golden Elite by choking Yuta out with a chair. That's right. Oh, a chain, excuse me. I think he passed out. Yeah. And I think Moxley or Bryan verbally called it because Yuta was going to die. I remember that.
Fair enough.
As I was saying, Mercedes is back to celebrate her titles once again. And this time she came with a whole bunch of security, thanking her good friends Nicholas and Matthew Jackson for the extra security so that nobody can interrupt her. Sure. Mercedes begins by saying that she wants to talk about the past, present, and future of wrestling, saying that she is, and she completely botched it, or she said it differently due to copyright reasons. She's the best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be, eliciting quite a few boos from the Calgary crowd. She then addresses Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, saying that she's never getting that match at Wembley because if they did indeed face off, she'd leave Britt with a lot worse than some fractured vertebra and a stroke. Mercedes then raises a toast to herself, calling herself the history maker, the star maker, and then she inevitably obviously gets interrupted by Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Britt comes down the ramp. She super kicks the security out of the way, but by the time she hit the ring, Mercedes had already hightailed it through the crowd and got on out of there. So once again, James, short segment, but hey, we had to let Bryan and Hangman go long. It was just another instance of Britt upstaging Mercedes, and they're just doing this little tit for tat where Britt upstaged Mercedes at Forbidden Door. Mercedes upstaged Britt last week, and now Britt is once again returning the favor as we build towards their match at Wembley.
You gotta love pettiness. Love pettiness. First off, going back to Navarro's comments, the CEO part of her music has got to go. It's so cringe. See, here's the thing. It was cringe when she was a face and nobody was doing it. Now I like it because she, in her mind, is imagining these people are doing it. So I love that she's kissing her own ass. So I agree it is cringe, but now I think it works as a heel. Navarro also saying he enjoyed her promo tonight better than most of her promos. Again, we've been saying it for a while. It's because it felt so forced when she was a babyface. She's not a comfortable babyface. She's never really been comfortable on the mic as a babyface. Her personality, her character lends itself to being a heel so much easier, and her promos, I think, reflect that. The only thing is, I think her wrestling style kind of favors being a babyface.
A lot of lucha, because she's smaller. Yeah. She ends up doing a lot of moves that you relate to smaller babyface wrestlers like Rey Mysterio, or I guess Eddie, but Eddie obviously played a great heel a lot, but he was a smaller dude, so he would do some high-flying stuff. Yeah. She was pretty pissed when Britt came out, I gotta say.
Chris saying, in Blood and Guts, you win by submission or surrender. Yeah, no, thank you, Chris. We were struggling there.
Nobody in the comments better than fact-checking us than Chris.
We appreciate it. Navarro agreeing with you. It's because of the high flying, and Navarro saying he agrees with everything I said. I appreciate you, Navarro. I always need the ego boost. And
still hates the CEO thing.
I still hate to see. No, good. Hate it. I think we're meant to hate it now. So
yeah, and honestly, people hated it when it started. I mean, people I don't think really like this theme of hers in general. So
I don't know. I love it. Will Ospreay loves it. We love doing the dance to it.
Yeah, no, it depends on your taste. It was, I think, a lot of people when it first came out, everyone was just like, she took, Gunther's classical piece and just turned it into a rap song. I
have a genuine question to ask, and we're going to go on a tangent here real quick.
Yeah, all right.
I set it up. I know you want to put it up.
No, go ahead. You can just go.
Is Gunther's music like just regular music?
So
like, is that like a piece?
Yeah, no. So it used to be. I forget what it's called. I'm sure you could look it up pretty quickly. But it just was a classical piece. Now the beginning is still that classical piece, but they added like the new guitar or whatever. Yeah. I don't remember what it is. But it was a genuine like classical piece of music.
I was watching an episode of Always Sunny, and the episode ends. The credits are rolling with Gunther's song playing, and it really threw me for a loop. Navarro puts it's Germany 1945 song.
Yeah, I'll find it in a bit, but it's something like that. I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Navarro. All right, let's get back on track here as we move through towards the end of the show. We came back from commercial to see Brandon Cutler on the floor crying, begging off somebody who's beating him up, covered in face paint, and that face paint turned out to be the paint of one Darby Allin, who had attacked Brandon Cutler. Darby talks to the camera and the Elite, referencing something Jack Perry said, that being sacrifices must be made, saying Brandon just made his before calling out the Elite for Dynamite 250 next week. So the Darby Allin has returned, and we shall see what that entails next week.
All right, where the hell has Brandon Cutler been on AEW TV that I'm supposed to care about this right now? I cannot remember the last time I saw him with the Elite.
Yeah, right?
Like, they treated this as like, oh my God, what a shot at the Elite. He's been on Ring of Honor with Colt Cabana more recently, as far as I know.
Where they're like pseudo heels, but not really.
Like, sort of a tag team, sort of heels. I don't even know. But man, okay. I'm happy he's back because I like Brandon Cutler. But what the heck? Let's see. We got a comment from JL. What's up, JL? Why is MJF fighting Hairspray on Dynamite but not at Wembley? CM Punk and Drew have had a long feud. AEW is scared to do so. My friend, AEW has nothing but long feuds sometimes.
I was going to say, Hangman, like, not only maybe necessarily long feud, a lot of the longest ones have been either Cody or Jericho. But you can't tell me they don't have long-term storytelling. But they definitely do have long feuds.
Hangman and Swerve has been going on since like the middle of last year. Toni and Mariah May has been going on since, again, the better part of not only this year, but near the end of last year. They are not afraid of long feuds or long stories. Eric Grisanti saying, he's glad that he hasn't been on TV, but you're not wrong. You're full of it. He's such a good goober. I know he's
being a
talking
reference
about
to Cutler. Yes.
He's so good at being a slapstick villain heel sidekick. No. Eric saying, Drew and Punk literally said copy and paste to Swerve and Hangman. Yep. Well said.
Yeah. And let's also realize too that Drew and Punk has been going so long because Punk got hurt and Drew has just been carrying it on Twitter. And now eventually, now that Punk has returned, they've been able to get a little more physical. But Navarro saying, agreeing with us, there are times where AEW were doing feuds that lasted like a year and a half. They're just on and off and not in your face every week. They kind of bounce back and forth between it. Which do keep them a little bit fresh.
And I do think that goes to JL saying that sometimes for some reason it feels forgettable to him and that he doesn't know what it is, but maybe it's how it's packaged and presented. Yes, I think AEW's long-term storytelling isn't always necessarily the focus of their show on a weekly basis, but it comes back in full force for long periods of time. And all of MJF's stories are long. Most of Hangman's stories are long. Jericho doesn't understand the meaning of short. So I really do think that AEW tends to have these long stories or these long feuds.
Sorry, my mic got unplugged for there for some reason. I even know I didn't touch anything. But not only that, too, James, let's remember that AEW does a really good job of not forgetting what people have done with or to each other in the past. They consistently make a point of if people have feuded, even if they're on the same side in this instance, they're not going to forget about their past beefs. And sometimes they'll just squash them, or sometimes they're going to be like, I don't trust you, and I'm never going to trust you, even if we win this match tonight. Type of things. I feel like the only person who consistently does that in WWE is Kevin Owens. And even then, sometimes they just throw logic out the window there or just think you forgot stuff. Yeah. And I don't think they've been doing it as much with Triple H. I think he's a guy who likes to, remember what people have done in the past. But AEW, makes a very, very fine point of making sure that past feuds, past storylines do affect the future ones as well.
Yeah. It's saying, meanwhile, in the WWE cave, rinse and repeat over and over. I don't want to say that. I do think WWE is doing very well right now creatively. There are certain things that are, either dragging or we have seen before. But I do think WWE is creatively at a high right now.
They've been doing great.
Yeah. And Eric saying, LOL, I just saw something that said Darby Allin going to use glass at Wembley against Jack Baker.
If you don't think that's not common, you're not paying attention.
I would love that. Darby Allin and FTR as the last three for Blood and Guts may save the match. Maybe. Look, I love
FTR hurt.
Yes.
Didn't he get hurt in Blood and Guts? So you might not.
Well, he's been hurt. He's been working hurt. FTR bald. I'll also say I just love when I see the four pillars interact in any way. So I think that's always cool. And I don't know, man. I don't know who you would have win that match with Perry and Darby. I think it has to be Perry. I think Jack has to win, but I don't know. And we do know Darby's favorite title in AEW is the TNT title. He's a multi-time former TNT champion. He's gone on record on several occasions saying he cares more about the TNT title than the world title. But I would still love to see Darby win the world title one day.
It'd be nice. To close a loop here, I found Walter's / Gunther's theme. It's I'm going to butcher the guy's name. Dvorak, Symphony No. 9, Part 4.
Thank you.
Written in 1893. So
there you go.
Maybe not as classical as I thought, but
I mean,
not like Mozart
is pretty damn classical.
Yeah, but like, when was Mozart writing shit?
I have no clue. Mozart.
I think that was more like 17s. I thought. I could be wrong.
Mozart. All right. Yeah, he was 1756 to 1791.
Yeah, I was gonna say that felt like more of the classic, like Beethoven and guys like that. They were writing shit back then.
Beethoven the dog?
Yes, James, the dog. The St. Bernard.
Beethoven was 1770 to 1827.
Yeah, see? I know my history.
Reading that way.
All right, let me try to get things back on the rails here. As we hit our main event of the evening, we saw Mariah May face off against Willow Nightingale in the women's final for the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament. It will jump towards the end of the match here. After Mariah was able to kick out of a fisherman's bomb, Willow sent her into the ropes for the pounce, but Mariah was able to counter it with a headbutt, which was great, and it dropped both women to the mat. Willow then got distracted by somebody in a hooded sweatshirt coming over near the ringside area. Sorry, I got distracted by the GIF. And Toni, I don't know if this was on purpose or she taking advantage of the situation, went to distract the referee on the other side. Commentary almost kind of made it seem like she was trying to ask the ref a question or trying to check on Mariah, but maybe the timing was off. It looked like she was trying to distract the referee on purpose.
Yeah.
No matter what the intention was, we did have the outcome of the distraction by the hooded figure allowed Chris Statlander to come in and laid a huge boot to the side of Willow's head, and the hooded figure was revealed to be one Stokely Hathaway. Mariah then came to and was able to take advantage of this, despite the fact she had no idea what had happened, and hit her running knee, but Willow was able to kick out of that. Mariah then attempted to get Nightingale up for the Mayday, but she was unable to do so, so she rolled through with it, using the pinning predicament that she beat Hikaru Shida with last Friday, and Willow was able to kick out of that. Mariah went for Mayday once again, but Willow was quickly able to counter with a short arm lariat that Mariah kicked out of. Willow then got May up for a Death Valley driver, but Mariah quickly adjusted, jumping into the head scissors and reversing the Death Valley driver into a roll-up, which kept Willow down for the 3 count, giving Mariah May the Owen Hart tournament win. After the match, Mariah had her hand raised and shook Willow's hand, and then Willow made her way out of the ring, and then Toni came in to celebrate before grabbing Mariah and running up the ramp to present her with the title belt for winning the Owen. However, and while this was happening, Nigel McGuinness was singing on commentary. I should note, Nigel was on commentary tonight instead of Taz. They are running with this thing where Jericho has continued to keep Taz off of commentary by palling around with the Young Bucks and saying that he doesn't feel safe with Taz around, so Taz was not there this evening. Nigel just continuing his love affair with Toni and Mariah. Can't really say I blame the guy. As it was singing, and while he is singing, Mariah beats Toni to the title, picks it up, and immediately nails Toni in the head with the belt. She then starts whipping Toni with it, just beating the shit out of her with it. And Luther attempted to come up to help Toni, but Mariah took the belt to his head, whipping him with it repeatedly, whipping him with it a few times before eventually using the title to she smashed it over his head again, and he went flying off the stage through a couple of tables on the floor. Mariah turned back to Toni, whose face had been completely bloodied, and Mariah took Toni's shoe, which I believe the way she was really bloody was when Mariah hit her with the title. Yeah. The heel went right into Toni's forehead. Yeah. So Mariah took the shoe and started absolutely beating it into the cut on the top of Toni's head before eventually throwing it away, kissing Toni's forehead right at the cut, leading to "you sick fuck" chants. And we are left at the end of the show with Mariah's face covered in Toni's blood as she stands over Toni's borderline lifeless body. And we have the shot of, God damn it, of Toni. Sorry, my computer's randomly dying for no reason. Of Toni bloodied, Mariah standing there, and the title card match. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
For the title match card for Wembley. Sorry, I'm a little distracted here, James, but my heart is broken. Please take this while I figure out why the fuck my computer's not charging. So I don't get knocked off the air here.
No, you're good. So a couple things at once here. The match itself was fantastic. Willow and Mariah, I love that tweet that Producer Boy pulled up before. Willow and Mariah are definitely two of the biggest investments AEW has made this year. that they have had been given so many opportunities to grow, so many opportunities to connect with the audience, and so many opportunities to so many opportunities to to show off in front of the crowd and get that connection going. So I thought that was really great that they earned this match, that they earned this time on television. And of course, being the talent that they are, they made the most of it. The match was exhilarating. The match was great. They deserved this main event, and they deserve to be in the finals of this tournament. Fun little detail, Willow was wearing the gear that was in tribute to Owen Hart in his time in the Nation of Domination. If you go look it up, producer boy, I think I saw it on a tweet. I'm sure you'd be able to find it. Willow's gear was basically identical to Owen Hart's gear from his time in the Nation. I love that detail that you pulled up on the tweet before, that Mariah won with the roll-up that Owen used to win against Bret Hart at WrestleMania. So there you go. There's the tweet. The gear is nearly identical. The design is almost exactly the same, going as far as to have danger put into it. It's saying, looked like a cover for a 70s exploration film.
I think he meant exploitation.
I think so too. Welcome back, partner.
Yeah, sorry about that. Of course, I tried to reset the power by unplugging it, and there was not enough battery for me to unplug it.
Isn't that always how it goes? I do have to question Eric's comment here. Safe to say Saraya is out the door. I don't think I don't know. Unless she's just done with wrestling, I don't think she has any intention of going back to WWE. So, bummer that she won't be at All In, I guess, but I don't know what she would do either.
I mean, I'm sure they could find a spot for her. I'm almost a little, I don't want to say a little upset, but like Saraya versus Mercedes Moné at All In would be an interesting match, but Britt versus Mercedes is much better. Yeah,
absolutely.
Can we just get back to how broken my heart is right now?
Oh no, dude, I was legitimately like, the actions itself were enough to make anybody sad. It sucked to see Mariah finally turn on Toni, and we knew it was coming.
One way or the other, it had to.
It still sucks, and I was shocked at the brutality of it, considering everything we've gone through in the last few months with her and Mina Shirakawa and with Toni. I was shocked. I was expecting this to happen after the match. I was expecting this to happen after maybe Mariah won. But this was brutal. And beyond the brutality of the beatdown, the blood, the table spot, the champion, the whipping, all of it, I think the part that really upset me the most was Toni was crying when this was happening.
Oh, yeah.
She was audibly sobbing. She was sad and in pain. And that made this hard to watch. This made this hard to endure. We have all become so invested in Toni Storm and the work she's put in with this character. And this character that started off as a heel, this character that turned into a face essentially because of how well she was doing with it and how much we loved her doing it. And she opened herself up to Mariah. Mariah weaseled her way into this spot. Toni didn't really care about her in the beginning. She didn't give her a second thought. And then she came to love this girl. And then once Mina got her three-way, once Mariah got her three-way with Mina and Toni, and she hit it, she quit it now. And I don't fucking like it. This isn't how we treat women. So I am distraught here. You can bonk me all you want. You know I'm right.
Oh, no, I know. I'm self-bonking. Breathing? Just trying to keep it together here.
You don't self-bonk on camera. You don't self-bonk with an audience. Not unless
for free?
You get paid for it. Yeah, not for free.
No, but like I am. I love them together so much, and I know the breakup was inevitable, and you can even see it the last couple of weeks where I think it was last week after, or maybe I think that was Collision actually. Toni beat somebody. Was somebody in the woman in the infantry? I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. It was Trish. something.
Amadora.
Yeah, Trisha Amadora, yeah. And Luther went over to congratulate Toni, and Toni was like there for a hug, and it looked like she was going to hug Luther, and Mariah slipped right past him like Aaron Donald going through a lineman, and just stole the hug from Luther, and you can see her just staring daggers into him. And I was like, oh no. And I knew it was coming eventually. I didn't think it would be this fast. Eric saying, let me click the right one. I'm usually against such a quick turnaround, but this was perfect. It was the best route. They could have forced Toni heel against the face Mariah, but they didn't, and it feels so much better. And
I don't think that was going to happen. But
well, I think this harkens back to something I said a while ago, where I think they played this well enough to the point where you could see who was getting the better reaction, and you could turn whoever you needed to turn.
Yeah.
So, and you set it up perfectly here for this too, because you necessarily didn't know who was going to turn. It could have honestly been whoever reached that belt first was turning.
Yeah.
And because you could have had Toni turn on Mariah for winning this match and thinking she's better than Toni and threatening her top spot, or what you actually did get was Mariah turning on Toni. A lot of tease there. In order to break away from Toni and not only get this title opportunity, but get an opportunity to become the top woman on the card, on the roster, usurping Toni after she weaseled her way into becoming Toni's protege.
Yeah.
So I am heartbroken, but this is gonna be a good match.
Go into the comments. You have it's saying three-way always gets a giggle. Bonk. Eric saying not kissing her while she was bleeding was a missed opportunity. It would have created a great visual. No bonk in this situation. No bonk.
She did kiss her forehead. She did.
Yeah, and she rubbed her face with all the blood and everything.
Yep.
But I was going to say for sanitary reasons, maybe don't do it. But we had Hangman literally drinking the blood of Swerve. So
granted, that was on pay-per-view, but
yeah. And Eric saying he for sure thought it was Toni as a heel going into All In, but they had to pull an audible after her last feud. I don't even know if that's true, if I'm going to be honest. I think there's sort of an in-between. I think there was a point where it could have gone either way, like Reb said, and they were just waiting to see how it was going to go. And then I think there's a level of the crowd was never going to cheer Mariah against Toni. I think the crowd is so invested in Toni. I think the crowd is so behind Toni that you would be fighting an upstream. And I think I said this a while ago on the pod too. You'd be fighting upstream here. You'd be fighting uphill to get the crowd to boo Toni. So you might as well make her the baby face anyway.
Yeah. And even in London, like in Mariah May's hometown, it's going to be hard to get a very cheeky British crowd to boo Toni Storm. They appreciate good character work more than probably any crowd you're going to get in the world.
They don't inherently cheer for their hometown person the same way. Like, they'll give them the pop, but they will cheer for the person they want to cheer.
Yeah, like when you get there from London, England, from Justin Roberts, like they'll cheer, but Toni, they're going to throw flowers at Toni, like just to get in on the bit here. It's 100% happening. This crowd's going to be way too far behind Toni Storm to cheer Mariah. And even if the face heel dynamic was flipped, I think this is better because you're just playing into what that British crowd is going to want. I think you're playing into what a lot of crowds probably want. And it's just, frankly, easier to have Mariah be the heel here because now we can finally, in good conscience, cheer Toni Storm. Yeah. Because she's been a little, the heel face thing lately she's been on the fence. Now she is a clear-cut face.
Yeah, no, I agree. So just to go to Eric's comments real quick, he thinks they would have definitely cheered for Mariah at this point. I don't think they would have booed Mariah, but I don't think they would have been as in support of Mariah against Toni if Toni was the heel and Mariah was the face. I just don't think so.
And I don't think British crowd, I still don't know if they would have cheered Mariah.
Well, I mean, if Mariah's the face, I don't think they would not cheer her, but they would still cheer Toni. And that's not what you want in a crowning moment if Mariah is going to win. And
Exactly.
this was the point I was trying to make before too. They could have done a face versus face if they really wanted. That's what I thought this was going to be. I thought this was going to be a face versus face, and then after the match, that's when the turn would have happened. So
I was honestly surprised they did it today the way Eric was, just because the turn that is, because you could have really drawn out who's going to be the heel, who's going to be the face in this match, because of the fact that Toni could be nervous that Mariah's going to beat her, and Mariah might think that Toni is like holding her down, or thinks that Toni expects her to lose on purpose. Yeah. The last time Mariah had a match for a title shot, Toni, that was really the turning point for their relationship, because Toni was like, "Oh, you're brilliant! Like, you can win this match, and then I'll be able to retain my title." And I don't know if that was something that was going to again happen here, but it was definitely something they could have played upon had they not done this turn immediately.
Yeah.
Instead, they pulled the trigger right off the bat, and it's going to give us a lot of time to now have this feud and have Mariah as a heel and establish her heel character, instead of not just being Toni's protege, but a Toni cosplayer in the ring as well.
Yeah. So I do want to go into all right. So this tweet from Shaza McKenzie. Mariah May has to be one of the best hires in AEW history, right? I mean,
yes, 100%.
She's killed it from the jump. So absolutely.
Yes. I'm with Nigel. I'm 100% completely in love.
No bonk.
No, straight up.
I was gonna say this. Asking where's Britt's British girl at? Jamie Hayter. So the way I'm predicting this goes, Mariah wins at All In, and she is brutalizing Toni, and then Jamie Hayter finally returns and makes the save
to a nuclear pop.
Nuclear pop. Nuclear or nuclear? Nuclear pop.
I always make that Get Smart reference. I always say that.
That is a great movie. Jamie Hayter makes the save, and that sets up a rematch. Not a rematch, but a match at All Out between Jamie Hayter and Mariah May.
You're going to do that, though, and then have not only a quick turnaround with the title matches, but you're going to have Jamie lose her first match back for a title shot. But
I have Jamie beat Mariah because Toni interferes.
Wow, you're going to have Mariah May have a 2-week title reign?
She's super young, and the bigger feud is her against Toni than it is her as champion.
Okay.
So this is a great way of getting the title back on Jamie Hayter, something everybody wants. And this is a great way of adding an extra layer to their feud.
It is interesting. I will say this. That first Haterade, I think I'm stealing this from somebody's tweet, but that first Haterade is going to hit like crack.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's saying yes, and I will take it.
I think the yes was to Jamie Hayter for me.
Eric saying, I think you're taking the risk of her coming back and no one can. There is no way. There is still so much chatter about Jamie Hayter.
Oh, dude, yeah. Reddit's always, where the fuck is Jamie Hayter?
Reddit, Twitter, everywhere. People are clamoring for Jamie Hayter's return.
To do it in London?
Oh, my God. Yeah. There is no way. There is no way on God's green earth, even if it's in fancy London town, that there won't be sun blazing down on them as Jamie Hayter makes her return.
Counterpoint.
Good.
You could also have her save Britt.
You can, but I don't need to see Jamie versus Mercedes, and I don't need Jamie to be partnered with Britt, because quite frankly, as great as their friendship was, there was no point where those women ever felt like equals. It was either Jamie was the tag along to Britt, or Britt was the tag along to Jamie. Let them both go for championships.
Now, you could have Jamie come back, make the save for Britt, and then they're still friends, but they're doing different things. You can still have Jamie go for the title. Maybe not immediately, because you can continue Mariah versus Toni, the feud, for a little while longer, and then when Toni inevitably loses again, then Jamie goes after Mariah May. You have that, unless you hold Jamie away from the title until you want her to win it again. Now, I know you want her to win it again immediately, but you can take a beat there, let Mariah get a decent reign, and then beat a couple people after Toni, and then have Jamie Hayter come in and take it from her.
You can.
2 months down the road.
You can, but no. This tweet from Lyric saying, AEW committed to Mariah May's development from day one, and her booking was honestly one of the first major breakaways from some of the problems that plagued the division for years. If they stick the landing at All In my opinion, she's their best homegrown female success story thus far. It's a little hard to call her a homegrown success because she only had the support she did from the crowd because of her time in Japan with Stardom. So, but they definitely made her a much bigger star in AEW. I love this comment, by the way, from You Know It. Even You Know It was asking about her, so I heard. Bravo, You Know It. That was a great comment. And Eric saying there's so many good things going right now. And I do want to acknowledge that is actually across the board. TNA killing it with the Knockouts division, as always. WWE, quite frankly, might have the most stacked women's roster they've ever had, especially now with this new signing that happened today, the signing of Stephanie Vicar, who left CMLL rather unceremoniously, might I add, and it's causing a lot of drama down in Mexico, but that's a story for another pod. And of course, now AEW is booking these women the way we've been begging them to be booked for years. You and I, Rev, have been saying this for a very long time. The problem with AEW's women's division was never the depth of the roster or the talent involved. It was the time, usage, and the time given to them. And now finally we're getting it. I think we might, honest to God, get 3 women's matches at All In.
What's the third one? Oh, Stat and Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
That's huge. The only thing that could make this better is if Deonna Purrazzo gets booked. But that's another story. I'm mad at you, by the way. Your girl beat mine.
Oh, Mariah. Yeah, I bet to watch that match.
Sheeta beat
yeah.
We
should have wagered on that. That would have been fun.
I'm good. But anyway, just great time to be a fan of women's wrestling. And of course, got to give their flowers there in NXT as well. NXT's killing it with their women's performers. And up until she got hurt, Athena was absolutely dominating women's wrestling as Ring of Honor Women's Champion. So great time to be a fan of women's wrestling. Bad time to be Eric, who hates women. Bad time to be Matt, who hates women.
I do believe also in kayfabe here on the show, you hate women, but I could be wrong.
Hold on. We're looking up the banner.
So I think it's in running gags.
You're right.
No, it's not that one.
Yeah, no, I think it's that one.
I'm pretty sure it's not that one.
There's also Chad. Chad hates women.
And James hate women. James and Eric hate fans.
Rev hates women.
Oh, we can all agree. Danny apparently loves women.
Yeah, no, we can always say that. That's a universal constant. This tweet.
And Matt really hates women.
Matt really hates women. Holy fuck, the Mariah May turn was so good. Every Dynamite show now ends with someone turning and beating the living fuck out of someone else for an hour. This is the way.
This is the way.
I'm inclined to agree. Let's see. We got a comment from You Know It saying, sounds like it's time to reboot Glow for those who remember that. I'm going to beat you there. You know it. Glow actually did get rebooted.
I was going to say, isn't it back? Not even just a TV show. Isn't like the actual wrestling company back?
The actual company is back. I don't know how well it's doing or if it even is still around, but it did make a return, as did WOW, Women of Wrestling. So
maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. I know one of them is back.
I think they both did.
Yeah.
I think they both
or at least it's still running.
Yeah. Eric saying he can't wait for that Stephanie Vicar girl to get her rematch with Mercedes too.
No, he's just trolling.
I know he is. But,
can I just say quickly on Vicar? I didn't really hear that the break from CMLL was that contentious. Apparently,
it's gone. It's bad. It's sending apparently shockwaves through Mexico. We don't know the status of her contract with CMLL, but we do know that she was under some form of contract with CMLL, and she was stripped of both of her titles unceremoniously. They did not even go through the time or the effort of having her lose those titles to anybody. We don't know what this is going to do, but there is a lot of whispers, there's a lot of scuttlebutt, there's a lot of rumors going around that this was not handled the best way. And CMLL was not really in a position to stop her.
See, now everything I had read, now maybe things have changed since I last went on the internet, but everything I had read was that CMLL tends to usually let their wrestlers out of contracts when they have opportunities to get big money contracts in America. And that, she vacated the titles and left. Now, whether or not they stripped or vacated are semantics, I guess. But I had heard that this was pretty on the up and up. It was just how quickly her star rose and that star-making match with Mercedes that everything went so quickly. I can see that sending shockwaves, but I didn't see anything between like her and CMLL and there being bad blood there in general.
Yeah. Eric saying she literally beat somebody yesterday. She didn't even take an L on the way out. I think that feeds into how quickly this happened and how CMLL didn't appreciate how this was handled. And I agree. CMLL does typically favor letting their people get those money contracts, but I don't think they ever support it at the expense of themselves. And I think that's how this came out. And I'm not taking any shots at Stephanie. If she did the same thing and went to AEW, it would still kind of be bad, but I appreciate the fact that she's trying to make bank.
I would have appreciated the matchups more.
She was also at NXT Heatwave, maybe behind the scenes. I don't think she was on TV at any point.
Yeah, not that I heard. I feel like that would have been near the top of Reddit, where she plus that probably would have broke her contracts.
Yeah. Navarro saying it just sucks that AEW and WWE are getting bigger and bigger rosters. Lots of people are losing their opportunities. To an extent, yes, I do agree that we're seeing a lot of talent already on the roster, just not really. Things are getting bloated, but I am always going to be in support of these guys getting contracts because even when they're not used, they're getting base pay that is better than most people will ever make doing anything else. And at least with AEW, you can go work the indies and still keep working and still keep your name relevant and keep your ring work relevant. So time will tell how this will pay out for anybody, but I'm never going to be upset with somebody getting paid. Ever.
Fair enough. Get the bag.
Yeah.
Now, I honestly, personally, I wish she had went to AEW. She probably could have continued to work some CLL dates, which I think her signing with her leaving so quickly was a very clear indicator she was going to WWE.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think also I just feel like the matchups would have been better there. I thought she would have really fit in well in AEW, her style, and I really hope she just doesn't end up as another Mexican wrestler who gets thrown into LWO.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. I'm not upset at her going to WWE. Quite frankly, I kind of like the fact that we just had the AEW TBS champion beat her, and now she's going to WWE.
She had to run to that other pissant company.
I don't want to ever get mad. I don't want to put myself in a mental position where I get mad that people choose WWE as opposed to AEW. I've been consistent on this. I want both companies to thrive. I don't want AEW to quote unquote beat WWE. I want both companies to be successful. I want both companies to have healthy rosters, and I want people to be able to work wherever they want to work.
Right.
So would it have been nice if she went to AEW? Sure. But it's not a loss in my mind that she's going to WWE. So let's see what happens. Quite frankly, AEW's women's roster is packed, and there are women that I would very much like to see win a title. Deanna. And let's not overly fill stuff. WWE has 3 rosters for their women between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. AEW has, I guess, 2 if you include AEW as a whole and Ring of Honor. So if this is what Stephanie wanted, good for her. I'm happy for her. And yeah, that's that.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted. Like I'm just upset I'm not going to see those matchups. I'm not upset Stephanie chose what was better for her. Having both of these companies thrive and allows these people to have this choice, which is better for everybody. I've said this multiple times on the podcast. Rising tide lifts all boats. So as long as both companies are doing well, wrestlers have these options. It gives them more power and grants them better opportunities. Really quick side note: Deanna Peraza versus Mercedes Moné. Let's go.
Yes. All right. I'll be honest, and this is me being very, very petty. The number one reason I'm excited Britt's back is because I want her and Deanna interacting. Whether it's as a tag team, which I think they would kill it, and just please give me those goddamn AEW Women's Tag Team titles already, or they go against each other. No matter what, money.
I think it's pronounced Monet. 2 minutes, $2. Get out of here.
There you go. I just gonna go to the comments real quick. It's saying maybe she was stealing pencils and paper clips on the way out to lead to the sour grapes. Hey, you do what you got to do. Screw those big corporations. You know it. Eric saying, I think it's bloated, but it's like a revolving door. If you're not doing well, you're out. The end, on to the next one. I mean, that's less like a revolving door and more like you're getting kicked out the door. But I do understand the point you're making. You do see people getting hot and cold, and then they sort of fluctuate their usage based off of that. Eric saying, honestly, she'll benefit better in WWE. WWE does a little bit better with the language barrier. I've got to strongly disagree with that one.
I'm with you, James.
It took way too long for them to figure out how to make Asuka work or Shinsuke work. And AEW has always highlighted their foreign talent, whether it's from Mexico, whether it's from Japan, or whether it's those indecipherable Brits. They've always treated the foreign talent well and never made them feel like the foreign talent. So that's the one I got to disagree with you on.
Especially too, because I feel like a lot of times in WWE, what you end up having is non-native speakers being forced to do promos in English outside of maybe Asuka. Like with Asuka, she just kind of yelled and you just kind of were like, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah. But you would just end up getting shitty promos in a second language. Whereas in AEW, most of the time, people are doing promos in their first language and it sounds way better. And we just, there are subtitles. God forbid. Most people watch movies and TV with the fucking closed captions on anyway. So I'm completely fine with them. I think AEW does the language barrier stuff better. Whether it's a manager or letting them do their own stuff. Eric does make a good point though that Triple H has done a better job of using subtitles and allowing people to do promos in their native languages.
And I'll give that too, but I do still think AEW has consistently done it longer and better.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. You could probably make a decent point that Stephanie will probably learn. I don't know how much English she knows.
She could cut a promo. She could cut a promo in English.
But I think WWE usually has ESL classes at the Performance Center. So she probably
that's
learned
kind of a bummer too. I hate, like Sean already said it. I'll see you in Orlando. I hate that these talents that we know can just be on TV just inherently go to NXT.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. It really bums me out. I hate this notion that if you're not in WWE and you're anywhere else thriving, you still gotta work your way up. I don't like it.
Yeah, and obviously that's because she's gonna have to learn the WWE style, which is why I also wanted to go to AEW. Like she had such a good performance the way she wrestles now. Why the fuck are you changing that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree in that regard. Navarro in the comments saying he just wants both of the companies to entertain him when he watches and make him want to come back. Talent can be wherever. He just wants to escape this reality we live in for a few hours a day. You and me both, brother. So I get it. And I love that take. And I agree. The more the merrier, no matter the letters.
I don't want any company to fail because, like I said, it's better for us. It's better for the wrestlers. And then it actually becomes better for the company because as they do better and the wrestlers are doing better, they're getting more money.
Except for CYN. We were all kind of glad when that one went down. You know it saying he thinks it's kind of a coin flip on wrestlers signing with companies, especially if they end up mid-card, telling themselves, I should have went with the other guys. That's the risk you take. Yep. Well, I mean, we love dogging on him here at the Market Down podcast, but Andrade threw away much better booking, in my opinion, in AEW because he felt the grass would be greener in WWE. He is the only person who didn't get a reaction in that Money in the Bank ladder match.
Despite being one of the better workhorses in that match, I think.
And it's just nobody will ever care.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever care. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's what I'm hoping Stephanie doesn't happen to her. That for those of you who are listening, it's a gif of Triple H, wagging his fingers to you to come here and presenting the two options Mexican wrestlers have. Either you go with Rey and the LWO, or you go with Santos Escobar and his crew. What was it? What are they? Legado del Fantasma, right? So those are your choices. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen at all.
And Eric said he doesn't think it's a work your way up. He just thinks it's a look at the camera type of shit.
In regards to Stephanie going to NXT.
But we know she can.
Yeah. But I think he means more of just like like I said, there's the WWE style, not just in the ring, but also too like, okay, here's where the Hart cam is. Here's where
but we know she knows that. She wrestled beautifully on AEW TV. CMLL is on television. It's ridiculous.
I concur. I think she could easily skip NXT and go straight to WWE proper. Now, granted, maybe WWE is also doing the thing of, hey, our fans don't know anything but WWE, or at least most of them. Let's introduce them to her in NXT and then bring her up, hopefully, quickly. But again, I think you are grossly underestimating how smart your fans are.
Yes.
So, which has been rarer in the Triple H days, but
yeah.
Okay, that was all of that. So I think we can finish up on that. So, that was Dynamite. Oh, cool! Breaking news coming from Tony Khan via Drainmaker on Twitter. Tony has announced that since Tomohiro Ishii isn't wrestling in this year's G1 Climax, he's going to stay in AEW for the rest of summer 2024.
I love that.
Basically, you just traded Ishii for Takeshita.
I'll take
summer.
I will absolutely take
the foreign exchange student swap. The Ishii came to America. Takeshita went to Japan
for the first time ever.
Never been there before.
Never. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So on that happy note, James, that was Dynamite. This episode was good. We had that really banger of a match at the beginning with Bryan and Hangman. We continued the Hangman storyline. The end was obviously very explosive with Mariah not only turning on Toni Storm, but bloodying the shit out of her. And I thought we had a lot of good stuff in between. Granted, maybe not all of it was super long because they gave Bryan and Hanger so much time. They gave the women a lot of time too, I might add, at the end. But I think everything that did happen outside of maybe the Joe Jericho match was very good tonight. The Joe Jericho match, granted, maybe it's because Joe has to go film. It was just kind of mid. The ending was hilarious, though. So I enjoyed this Dynamite, and we are really getting the ball rolling. Heading, I know it's far away, but heading into both All In and Blood and Guts.
Blood and Guts is only 2 weeks away, and which feels crazy.
3 guys on that fucking team, really? I didn't realize it was that close.
So 2 weeks away for Blood and Guts, and then a month and I guess change for All In. So full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. Great show, great matchups. I thought it was a great balance of storytelling and promos mixed with actual wrestling tonight. So just great stuff.
We're cracking the joke saying we should send Takeshita a copy of Speak Japanese in 1 week. You're getting on fire tonight, man. Well done tonight.
Bravo,
Or Japanese for dummies. But yeah, as heartbroken as I was at the end of the show, I really did enjoy it. I'm really, really looking forward to see what Mariah's new character is. I'm curious to see if she keeps rocking Toni's gear just as a fuck you to her, or if she goes. I think she has her own theme because I think she used it in her first couple of matches before Toni gifted her, her old gear. So I will see if she goes back to that. I'm curious to see how her matches change in terms of fighting heel now. So very, very intrigued by Mariah May and Hangman Adam Page, which I think were clearly the two focal points of tonight's episode, I would say.
Oh, big time, big time. They, I don't even want to address how people speak about AEW and their storytelling because I think it's so stupid and so short-sighted. But these are
also uninformed.
Yeah, and ill-informed. I think tonight was a prime example of how they allowed their matches to do the storytelling. It doesn't always have to be a promo where you have a guy explaining what's going on. Like, so much story was told in the Bryan and Hangman match. And it paid off of Hangman being absolutely brutal and unnecessarily cruel in his match with Jeff Jarrett. And that's a payoff a week later. That's storytelling. It just is. So I love tonight. I think so much good happened. I'm getting so excited for All In. It's going to be an agonizing month and a half as I am just going to delude myself into thinking Bryan Danielson will actually win the AEW World title, even though I should know better. And yeah, man, bring it on. Bring it on.
All right, one last question before we get out of here. Jeff Jarrett face now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Slapnuts face?
Oh, yeah. Hey, I don't know. I don't care how we got there, but we're there.
I can cheer them finally.
Yep, unashamed.
Let's go. Who would have thought Jeff Jarrett and the Slapnuts being face in 2024?
Gotta love it, brother.
Still gonna boo Karen though. She put hands on Aubrey. Side note, Mariah decked Aubrey with the shoe as she tried to come out and broke that up. I forgot about that. She laid Aubrey out. So that's gonna be a fine.
Yep. I don't think she cares.
Yeah, definitely not.
But just great stuff.
All right. And on that kind of sad note, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Feel better, Aubrey. Please like and subscribe if you like what you saw here tonight and you like the video. Let us know that you did indeed enjoy what you saw. And if you subscribe, you can continue to watch everything we put out. We are obviously back here every week for Dynamite. Got the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow for those of you who are.
Oh, did we lose him? Oh, we did lose him. But yeah, we will have the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow night for those who follow TNA with me. We might have someone covering SmackDown this week. We definitely covered Raw on Monday, so go check that out as Rev is frozen. We will be covering the TNA pay-per-view next week. Yes, next Friday, the 20th, Slammiversary. Lots of fun stuff to expect. And yeah, guys, if you know the drill. If you're new to us, thank you for being here. We appreciate you checking us out. Check us out on, if you can, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. If you like it, we know we're doing something right and we'll keep doing it. If you don't like it, we'll try to figure out what you don't like it. We'll tweak it. And if you subscribe, you can stick around and check us out on everything else we do. If you don't want to just follow us here and you want to see what we're doing on the day-to-day, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We put out a lot of fun content, and that's where we get to really talk with you guys. So please check us out there. As you know, I'm James Gisanti. I was joined by Nick, the Reverend Cummings, and of course, we had Producer Boy in the background. We love you. We appreciate you. As always, go watch wrestling. And as always, have a good night. Goodbye, guys.